What's up, guys? Welcome to your 81st Android tutorial for the new Boston. Again with me, Travis. And what we're gonna do in this tutorial is we're gonna kind of get back to the basics, do some more stuff with the XML layouts, and kind of show you some more examples and how to, we're just gonna create these small little applications so you guys can customize your app even further. And what we're gonna do in this tutorial is basically learn about the sliding drawer. And that's basically what this is. You're like, what? That's just a button. But basically, it's not a button because when we click it, we can slide this up, and we have something within this drawer for the most part. Then we can do something else and then slide it back down. And then here's our other activity. So as you can see, the graphics aren't that great. You can create your own kind of type of handle to make it look better, but as a graphic or something, and then you can still slide it up, check some preferences or something like that, and then slide it back down. Pretty simple. I don't know, we might get into the animation the Java, how to use some of the methods that this sliding drawer can actually access, but for now we're just going to create this here. Pretty simple. So first I want you guys to create a class called slider, extends activity, then also create a layout called sliding, all lowercase, within your onCreate method. Again, get that set up in your manifest and your menu class. Nothing new there. And then so we're going to open up that sliding class here. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put in the contents of what we want in our drawer for the most part. So what we're going to just deal with now is just a checkbox. That's all we're going to put in our actual drawer. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because the ADT kind of is messed up. It's kind of bugged out. So as you can see, when we now go over into our composite, this is where the sliding drawer is, right here. When we drag this over, it's going to give us an error, but just drag it over. It's going to work, I promise you guys, when you run on the emulator. And see, as you can see, it's giving us an error. It can't find the class called sliding drawer. That's just a Android problem. It's a bug. We're just going to have to deal with it. And then we're going to go back into our sliding, or the actual XML view here, and that's why I had you add that checkbox first. We're just going to grab this checkbox, Control X, and we're going to put it within this linear layout here. So just open up that linear layout and paste your checkbox here. And basically what's happening is we create a sliding drawer and we give it an ID that we want to reference in Java. So we're just going to call this sliding drawer, sliding D. And then we also give it a handle ID, and we also give it a content ID. Again, that's all with the app plus, and then whatever we want to label our ID as. And then within the sliding drawer, as you can see, it closes here. Within here, we have a button, and that's basically our handle. Just think of a drawer, like your dresser drawer. This right here is our handle, this button. So we can pull that handle up and down. That's what this, again, that's what this button is. And it just says handle right there as the text. And then the ID, we also establish an ID for the handle as @ID handle. And then the other thing that we do is we say @ID content for a linear layout, which is the actual content of our drawer. And as you can see, both of these this ID for a linear layout matches the content ID of our sliding drawer, and same with our handle. The ID is the exact same right here. So that's something you guys want to keep in mind, is when you create your handle here in your sliding drawer, because you are going to need this handle and this content, and then you set up your IDs as the same as your handle and as the same as your content. So there we go. We basically have created this application, and we're just going to set this this checkbox ID to something like CB for checkbox, and then we're going to say slide something like that. And we're pretty much done with this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we're actually going to program it and make this checkbox do something pretty special. And for those of you that follow this series all along, you probably know it's probably not going to be that special. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and I will catch you in the next one. Have a good one. Peace. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 82nd Android tutorial. And what I want to quickly show you guys is I added some buttons, as you can see here in our linear layout, right before our slider drawer. And we're going to click this, and now we're going to open our handle. But as you can see, it just stops right here because, you know, for linear layout, that's all the available height that we have. But basically, a way that we can surpass that is using something called the frame layout. And that's what this tutorial is going to be about. Just so, again, you guys can be a little more customized in your application. We still want our handle to go all the way up. And we can achieve that by setting up a frame layout. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut this closing statement of our linear layout. I know you guys probably don't have that yet, but I'm positive you guys can set something up like this. Just set up 4 buttons and a linear layout here. We're just going to paste that right here. So we still have a linear layout for our buttons, which has vertical orientation, so our 4 buttons are there. But now what we're going to do, we're going to copy this beginning statement here and paste a new kind of a new class, or I'm sorry, just a new layout above this layout here. And what we're going to have this layout be is something called a frame layout, like that. And the frame layout, there's no orientation, and basically the frame layout is going to allow us to draw on top of each other. Like, you know, linear layouts like, hey guys, let's get organized. Either you get below M or get to the right side. You know, guys, come on, stay in line here. And frame layout's like, screw that crap. It's like, stand on top of each other. You know, I don't care if you guys kick each other. Everyone do whatever they want. Who gives a he's like, who, you know, guys, whatever, just do whatever you want. So that's what we're gonna set up here to encompass our whole class. And then we just have to close off our frame layout here below our sliding drawer. So now when we run our application, it's gonna get buck wild. So basically what's happening now, again, our linear layout still controls all of our buttons, but that's still within our frame layout where it's like, hey, who really cares what you guys do? So as you guys see when we run this now, open our slider class, we can go way beyond where we could before and slide it still all the way up because the framework or the frame layout just really doesn't care, like I said. And then we can still click our check button, and obviously, like, this isn't the best kind of a linear layout, but I don't want to spend too much time on some mundane things. But as you can see, we can still click these previous buttons here. So, you know, that's not probably the best choice when you guys have a drawer like this, a sliding drawer. But, you know, that's fine. I just wanted to show you guys what the frame layout could do for you, and you know, you can develop that way as well. And if we didn't have this linear layout here, basically all 4 of these buttons would just compile on top of each other because, again, the frame layout doesn't even care. So that's pretty much the end of this tutorial. Just to introduce you guys to the frame layout and get you going with that. And then the next tutorial, we're just going to quickly just code that drawer, and I'm going to show you some of the methods that you can use. But here we go. This again was with I took out the linear layout and I started the application. We have 4 of our buttons right on top of each other there because we were in the frame layout. There's no organization. We can still slide up, but that's why we had that linear layout controlling those 4 buttons there. So I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial. Peace. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 83rd Android tutorial for the new Boston. And what we're going to do in this tutorial is actually start programming our basically our sliding drawer class. And what I've done is I've set up the Java class called Slider. You guys should have that set up. And I kind of just set up all the reference bridges because we have these 4 buttons right here, which I just gave them the IDs of handle 1, handle 2, handle 3, handle 4, and then again this one has the actual handle ID. So keep that in mind. I also gave reference to the checkbox, and I set the on-click listeners by implementing the on-click listener and on-check change listener. So set up our bridges or references to the XML. Then I set this checkbox, or the checkbox called checkbox, and I set the on-check change listener to this. That's why we had to implement that. And I set all of our buttons the set on-click listener to our on-click listener that we implemented down here. And then what I did is I set up a switching case for our on-click method. These are for our buttons. Switching case just gets the ID if it's the first button. Here's that case, second button. We haven't really filled in that yet. I'm just setting up the basic framework for the sake of time. And then for our on-check change listener, pass in this compound button for argument 1. We're just going to say, is that checked? If it is, we're going to do something here. If else, we're not. Now, obviously, we haven't done anything with the handle yet. With our sliding drawer yet. So that's what this tutorial is mainly about. I just wanted to kind of talk through what I've done so far, just so you guys aren't too confused there. So the first thing we want to do is set up our sliding drawer. So let's do that again within our onCreate method here. I'm just going to set it up real quick, and again it's called SlidingDrawer. It's a class, and we're just going to call this SD for sliding drawer. And then we got to import that, and then we're just going to say again sliding drawer, just like any other time we set up a reference. Find view by ID. And then it was sliding D was the ID we gave our sliding drawer. Set that up. Now this is the main part of the tutorial here. I'm just going to show you some of the functions or methods that the sliding drawer can do. So we're going to say set on drawer close, set on drawer close listener, on drawer open listener, and there's also a scroll listener for the drawer that you can do. Basically, we're just going to do one of those, but hopefully you get the concept of all 3 of those. That's just when the drawer closes, this is when it opens. So we're going to say this as well, and then we have to let our class implement that class. So we're going to say let slider implement on drawer open listener, and then we just have to implement add the unimplemented methods down here. So now we can just do something like media player mp equals media player dot create, and context this for class id r dot raw dot explosion, and then we're just gonna do mp dot start. So now when our drawer closes, it's going to just start a explosion noise that we have in our resources. Again, that's not review, but that's just one of the methods that we can use. Now something else we can do is basically we can toggle our drawer through code. So let's say we hit the first button, we can say our SD slider, our slider drawer, which we called SD, we can say dot, and again we have to establish for above this on create method so our whole class can use it. So again we're just going to say SD there and define the variable above, and then we can do SD dot open, SD dot let's not do that one. We're going to do, for the 4th button, we're going to say SD.close, and the 3rd button is just going to toggle it. Whether it's open or close, it's going to toggle to the other option. So, these are just some of the methods that we can use for the sliding drawer. Again, that's kind of what I wanted to show you guys. And then one other thing that we can do is if that box is checked, we can also do sd.lock, and that won't allow our slider or our handle to work. It's going to lock it in sd.unlock here. I know I'm going kind of quickly, but hopefully by now in the series you guys kind of understand the concepts. I just wanted to show you some of the methods that we can use for the sliding drawer and how they work. Not necessarily get into the actual coding, just some of the methods. Again, we just set up our slider and we say on open listener. So let's just check it out, make sure everything works. And at the end of the tutorial, I kind of scroll through the code one last time slowly so you guys can pause the video and catch up and write it if you guys are having trouble, but hopefully you shouldn't. So we're going to open up our slider class, and the first thing we're going to do is open it, and as you can hear, that's our explosion noise that we set up. Now let's do our checkbox. Now it's checked, so we can't. I'm trying to slide it down, but it's not allowing me to. So we uncheck it and then we can slide it down again. Our first button is going to open it up, and it also calls the onOpen method, so you can hear the explosion. And our fourth button is going to close it, and since it's closed it's not going to do anything, and our third button is just going to toggle back and forth. So hopefully you guys see how that all works. Our second button really doesn't do anything, but and even when we have this checkbox, when we lock it from the checkbox, this fourth button won't close it, and the third button won't toggle it because it's locked. So there you guys go. Hope you enjoyed that. I don't know. Oh yeah, I'll slide through this code real quickly. Implement all three of those things. You can pause here, or here, or here. And so hopefully you guys kind of understand what I was trying to teach you there. Didn't want to get too much into like setting this all up because it would have taken too long if you guys just watched me typing. But thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next tutorial. Peace. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 84th Android tutorial for the new boss. And what we're going to do in this tutorial is again set up just kind of a small application that deals with tabs. Something like this is our desired result, but for this tutorial we're just going to set up the XML layout. So I want you guys to create a tabs class, or a class called tabs, and then also a Android XML file called tabs as well, lowercase, for our layout. And then once we go into our layout, what we're going to do is we're going to go over here into our composite, and there's something called a TabHost. That's what we're going to drag and drop into our project here. And again, we get kind of an error because they haven't really updated the SDK, or the ADT I should say, yet for the 2.2 platform. So a quick fix that we can do to kind of get a visual, just like last time we had this kind of error, but we could have done this last time to get a kind of a visual, is go up here to basically the way that we're viewing it, and we're going to view it through the honeycomb platform or the 3.0 platform. It'll kind of give us a layout, and it still will work on an emulator once we have it set up, but or your phone or whatever. It's just the ADT for Android, for Eclipse I should say. And then so we're going to go up here, and then we're going to select Android 3.0, and this is kind of the desired result. We have 3 tabs up here and a view of some sort. And if you guys don't have this choice, again, that's just from the Window tab and then Android SDK AVD Manager. Go to Available Packages, Android Repository, and then select the 3.0 platform and install it. Pretty simple. Then you can have that option right there. So let's go into it and see what is important here with the TabHost and how it works. Basically what we have is firstly, we're just going to start within the smallest little brackets here. We have a frame layout, and again the frame layout allows us to draw on top of each other. So what we're going to do well, first let's just kind of describe everything. Frame layout is going to hold our 3 tabs, or even more if you guys want to put more tabs. It has 3 linear layouts right now. None of those linear layouts have anything within them, and we also have a tab widget that kind of holds that all. We have this tab widget right here, which kind of aligns all of our tabs in a row of some sort. So that's what that is. And then we have a linear layout here that kind of holds everything together, which is organized by this thing called a TabHost. So the TabHost basically controls everything and organizes it. And I'll show you guys. You'll learn more about what the TabHost is in Java when we get there. But let's kind of set up these tabs that have something, just so we know what we're working with here. So we're going to go to the graphical view. We're going to say for right here, we're just going to lay out 2 buttons and a text view. Nothing awesome for the most part. Mainly this tutorial is again about the tabs. So here we have, here we have the 2 buttons and the text view that we laid out. As you can see, that's within our first tab, this first linear layout. So again, let's just cut this text view, or copy this text view and post it within our second linear layout, just so we have something there. So we're going to say text view 2, something like that, or yeah, text view 2. And then as well as for a third application, we're going to say text view 3, just so we know there's something different within each of those tabs. And oops, I didn't put that one within the layout here. So, and now what's going to happen, or first let's kind of set up these buttons, and then I'll show you guys what problems we're having. We're going to say start and stop for the 2 buttons, and button start watch and a stopwatch, because we're just going to build a quick stopwatch application. Should take only one tutorial or so, but we're just going to set up our variables. And we aren't really going to worry about all the other variables. Maybe this text view, we'll change that one as well. Text view, show results, something like that. And basically all the other IDs we aren't going to really worry about. But it is pretty critical. I guess we have one more ID that we have to worry about. Sorry. But there is something that's pretty important here that we want to make sure is the same every time you guys do a TabHost type of deal, or if we are coding this all by ourselves, just like at the beginning of the series where we would. With this tab widget right here, you want the ID to be this @Android ID /tabs. It has to be that. It's just going to give us some kind of the basic layout of the tabs when we go into Java. So you guys want to make sure that ID is referenced by the tabs, and also the frame layout, as you can see here, is referenced by the tab content, @Android ID tab content. And then for a tab host, we're actually going to change this one. We're going to say @plus ID /tab host. We're just going to leave it like that instead of the Android ID tab host. So we're just, again, setting up our own reference for the tab host, and I'll explain that all in Java. But now what I've done is I've just set the content view to, in our Java class, I set the content view to this XML layout here. I just want to show you guys, if we run the application now, it might not be what you expect. And the next tutorial, we'll get it running and set up. Basically what's happening, again, the frame layout, let's just open it up. As you can see, you can kind of see this text view 2 right here, and also it's printed above our start and stop right here. So I mean, that's not exactly what we want. Basically what's happening is that frame layout's printing everything at once. We aren't even getting the tabs up here. Nothing's really looking the way we want it to, but that's fine because everything else that we're going to do is going to be in Java, and it's going to set up everything the way that we want it to be set up. So I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial where we're going to do that, and have a good one. Peace. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 85th Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to do in this tutorial is basically, get rid of this garbage right here and set up our application to actually be running properly. So what we're going to do is again, just to highlight, we're going to use the TabHost, which we gave the ID at plus ID TabHost. So that's mainly the most important one that we're going to refer to, as well as the specific layout here within our frame layout. We have those IDs as tab 1, tab 2, and tab 3. So that's kind of an important thing to realize or remember what those references are in Java. But let's just get started. The first thing we're going to do is create a tab host called TabHost, or TH, short for TabHost, and then you import TabHost. Then we say TabHost like this as well. Find view by ID, nothing new for the most part. I mean, it's a TabHost, so that's a little bit different, but then r.id.tabhost. So we set that up. Now the first thing we want to do is, alright, the first thing that, man, I just didn't spell that correctly at all. First thing we want to do is set up our TabHost, because again, the TabHost kind of organizes everything, and once we say th, which is the TabHost that we set up here, we can use .setup, and that's just going to basically, get the initialization going on, kind of set up the basics. And now we can actually add our tabs. We can kind of organize it, organize what we want our tab to be, what kind of content we want the tab to have or hold. Again, the content being our layouts, our linear layouts. So all we have to do now is just say, again, our tab host, or we're going to refer to the tab specs, which comes from the TabHost class. So tab specs, and we're going to call this TS for tab specs, and we got to import our tab specs class here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say our tab specs is equal to our TabHost dot new tab spec. And basically what this is going to give it is a string reference or a name, a tag of some sort. And right now I don't know exactly if this has a purpose. I think it's just something Android developed for further for the future, but at the moment I don't think this tag actually can be referenced of any sort, but we do need to set it up still. So we're going to set this tag spec up to our tag host and then give it a tag. So now what we want to do is set up our spec and kind of define what we want our specific tab to be, what we want it to do, and what we want it to hold. So first we're going to say our TS. Let's change this to, just so it's a little, specs. We're going to change that to specs just so it's a little bit more descriptive there. So we're going to say specs, and then we can say dot set content. As you can see here, again, the content referring to our linear layout. So we're going to say r.id.tab1. Again, that's the linear layout that we set up in the Java here, or in the XML here, and that's going to hold our two buttons and our text view. So that's what that's referring to. And then we also want to say, basically give it the tab a name of some sort. So we're going to say specs dot set indicator, and basically that's the tab's name is the indicator. And then we're going to call this first one stopwatch, and that's going to appear on our actual tab. And then the last thing that we have to do is we just got to say our TabHost. Then we just say add tab, and it takes a tab spec within its parameters. So we're going to give it our spec that we just set up. So specs. So there we go. We set up one tab so far that has a tag, the content, and what we want the tab to actually include. Now all we're going to do is just kind of copy and paste this whole thing again. So just copy, paste. We don't need to redefine our tab here, or spec. So what we're going to do now is just kind of define our second tab as well. So we can say tag 2 for the new kind of tag, and then for our content of the second tag, we want it to be our tab, tag, and tab. Alright, I got it now. So we want our content to be our second tab, or our linear layout, that's number 2, and for that we're just going to say tab 2, something like that. And then again, all we do, since we kind of redefined what spec is here, we're just going to add that new tab as well. And then let's just paste it one more time, get rid of the specs here for a third tag, for a third tab, with the name tag 3, and with the content tab 3, and we're just going to say add a tab. No, we aren't. Yeah, we are. Add a tab. The next tutorial might not be that awesome, but that's what our third one is going to be. And now just quickly, we save it. So again, you kind of define the specs, and then you, from the TabHost, you add the specs to your startup or your onCreate method. And then the only other thing we're going to do real quickly, I'm going to copy a button from our first class, or from our first linear layout, and paste it within our third linear layout instead of this text view. And we're going to change this to button add tab. And we're just going to save it, and I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial. Well, actually, let's run it real quick, make sure everything works. So open our tabs, and we have our 3 tabs. So the first one we have our start and stop, second one we have our text view, and our third one we have that add a tab button. So there we go. Everything looks pretty good. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and I'll catch you in the next tutorial. Have a good one. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 85th Android tutorial for the new Boston. And what we're going to do in this tutorial is I'm just going to show you how to set up a tab within code alone within Java. For example, if you're making like a web browser of some sort. So it's going to be pretty simple. Nothing too new for the most part, but a little bit new. So first we just need to set up our reference bridges. So we're going to say button, and we're going to say new tab. And this is going to, again, we have to import the button. And I'm also going to set up kind of references for the next tutorial, where we're going to build a simple stopwatch application. So find view by ID. Oops, find view by ID. And so again, just set up a couple of these references. For this one, we're just going to use one button, but we're going to also set up our button start and our button stop for our stopwatch for our next application. So pretty boring stuff here. Probably should have just clipped the video and done this, save you guys the hassle. But now we're also going to add our on-click listener. So we're going to say new tab dot set on-click listener this, and we're going to implement on click, and we're gonna set up just a switch in case here. I know these tutorials have kind of been dull lately. They haven't been as awesome, but we will get into some awesome stuff. I just kind of wanted to go back. You know, it's just like when you work out, when you're trying to lose weight, you don't want to just kind of jog every day. You want to run one day, or like run and then like walk a little bit and then sprint as fast as you can. So that's kind of the way I'm teaching as well. Like we start out really fast, then we went really slow, then we went kind of fast. Now we're going kind of slow again. Yeah, I don't know. That's a poor excuse, but yeah, the tutorials will get more interesting as well. So don't worry about that. So we're going to say button add tab. Then we're going to do whatever within here, and also case r.id button start watch break and case button stopwatch. Alright, so now that we have everything set up, we can actually do some work. So what we're going to do is within our button add tab, this is where we're going to add a new tab. So all we have to do is basically we're going to make our TabHost. So the first thing that we're going to do is create this TabHost to be kind of a variable we can use within multiple classes. So we're just going to paste it here, and where is it? Should organize my code a little bit better here. So there we go. So now we can use our TabHost within our onClick method. Hopefully you guys know why by now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to set up a new spec. So we're going to say tab spec, and we're going to call this our spec, something like that. We're going to set this equal to our th, which is our TabHost we just made a reference to, and then we're going to say new tab spec, and then we're going to say again like tag1 or something. Since it's kind of a new spec, we're just going to set that up. And now what we're going to do is we're going to define our actual spec and our content within this onClick method, and then we're going to set it up to create a new tab. So it's kind of beneficial if you guys were creating some kind of a browser application. And so we're going to say our spec dot set content, and this time we're just going to create our own content. So what we're going to do is we're going to say new TabHost, instead of saying like r.id like we did up here. We're going to say new TabHost dot set tab content factory. That's going to allow us to build our own little application, our own content for the most part. And so we're going to finish off our statement first here so we don't get confused. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go within this public view, and then within this tab construction we're just going to create a new text view. So we're just going to say text view text equals new text view this, and then we're going to set up our text view. Got to import text view, and then we're going to say text dot set text to you've created a new tab. And then what we can do is we can return, and then we can just return that variable called text, that we just created here. And I'm getting this error right here because what we have to do right now, it's trying to think of the context of this, but we want it to be our class name. So our class name, which was called tabs.this, so again, just our class name right there, and then semicolon there. Now it's going to return this text. Every time we basically what we've done is every time we press that button, we're going to set up a new spec, and we're going to set the content through the tab content factory, which is going to say create tab content, and basically we just set up a text view, and then we set the text of that text view, and that's what we're returning. That's actual information that's going to set up. So then we go outside of this bracket right here. Then what we do is then we're going to set our spec again, dot set indicator, and we're going to say new or new, something like that. And then again we just refer to, and then again we just refer to our tab host, and then we just say add, tab host, add tab, and we're going to say our spec. So I don't know if I went too quickly through that, but hopefully you guys understood everything that we did. And let's just run it, make sure it works. But just remember back to the beginning of this series where you guys would look at something like this and you'd be like, what the heck is he talking about? And now I bet you guys can kind of look through this and figure out everything that's going on. So let's check this out, and we're going to go into our tabs. We're going to go into our third tab where we set this add a tab. And as you can see, it creates this new tab up here. We click on it and it says you've created a new tab. And then we can click on it again, create new tab, new tab, new tab, new tab. So basically you can create new tabs within Java as well. And also we didn't have to just set up a text view. We could have done again a reference to a layout of some sort if we would have preferred. So hopefully you guys kind of understood that tutorial. I know it was kind of quick and I don't know, hopefully it wasn't too complicated though, but I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. Guys, welcome to your 87th Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to do in this tutorial is basically create that simple stopwatch application that I was telling you guys about. Now, the first thing we need to do in order to get the stopwatch application to work is we need to find some way to reference the time. And how we're going to do that is we're going to get the time, the current time, from the system, which is the Android. So that's basically the core concept of this lesson. And what we need to do is we need to set up a text view above our onCreate method called showResults, and we also need to create two buttons called start and stop. Oh wait, no. We need to create two longs, which is start and stop, so we can work with, you know, a tenth of a second, milliseconds. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Not even milliseconds aren't even a tenth of a second, but that's what we're working with is milliseconds. So start, stop, and now we just need to kind of set up again a reference for show results, which was our text view of our first tab. So we're going to say show results equals text view, find view by ID, r dot id dot TV show results, or whatever you guys label that as. And now we also, since we set up our buttons in the last tutorial, we need to set up our on-click listeners for those buttons. So we're just going to say button start dot set on-click listener to this, and button stop dot set on-click listener to this. Nothing new there as well. So alright, now we're going to go down to our switching case where the magic happens. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up our starting variable. Right when we hit our start button, we're going to get the current time from the system. So again, we created a long to handle that, and we called it start. So we're going to say start is equal to, and then we're going to say system, referring to the system class, and when we hit dot, we can get current time in milliseconds right here. And so that's what we're gonna use. Pretty simple. I mean, this right here is the core concept of this lesson. Just to get, you know, whether you're working with velocities on touch events, you can, you know, start the time right when they touch the screen and release the time right when they release the screen, or get another time when they release their touch event, and then you can calculate some kind of velocity or something like that if you want. But you're always going to have to refer to some method of time, and we're going to do that by system current time. And then we're also going to do that within the stop event. So we're going to say our stop variable is equal to again system dot current time. And there we go. I mean, we have a starting time and an ending time. All we have to do is change that text view. So we're going to say, what was our text view called? Show result. Well, actually, we're going to say, because if it's all about problem solving. Sorry, I'm kind of talking all over the place here. But let's say if they hit the stop button and they never hit the start button, then we're going to get some kind of error if we try to, you know, set the text because we don't have a start reference. So it's going to give us a problem. So one way we can handle that again is just a simple if else or if statement. So we're going to say if start does not equal 0. I don't know. And then we're going to print our text view. So what we're going to do is basically within here we're going to get our starting time minus our stop time. So we're going to say set up a new type of variable, a long result, and this is going to be equal to our stop time minus our starting time. So basically it's going to be how long it took the person to go from start to stop. And then we're going to say our text view, which we called show result, and we're going to say dot, or show results was it, dot set text, and now we just have to convert this long into a string. So we just refer to the long class, capital L-O-N-G, dot, and then we say toString, and that's going to convert a long variable into a string. So our variable we want to convert is result. And basically let's check it out, make sure it works, and we're done. I mean, basically all we did is we got the current time at the starting, got the current time at the stop, and then we found the result if the starting time was not equal to 0. Oh, so kind of forgot the key step here with this is we need to set our starting equal to 0 to begin with. So we're just going to say start equals 0 within our onCreate method. So that way it'll kind of problem solve for us. And then let's run the application, make sure it works. So again, this is in milliseconds. So when we hit, let's say stop right now, our starting variable is still at 0, so it's not going to display anything. But if we hit start, wait a little bit, hit stop, is 247.1 milliseconds, which was about 2 seconds, 2.4 seconds. In the next tutorial, I'm going to teach you guys how to format. I mean, it's kind of a general Java type tutorial for the next one. So if you guys want to skip that, that's fine. But I'm just going to teach you how to format this result. And we still get a problem because the last time we hit our start, it's still running. So it's still going to calculate every time we hit the stop button from that initial start. So, I mean, we aren't going to worry about that. I don't want to get too much into a stopwatch application, but as you can see right now, we could use a stopwatch for like laps. Like, oh, that's lap 1, 51 seconds. That's lap 2, 54 seconds. Whatever. I need to either go to bed or create that Java tutorial. I'll see you guys then. Have a good one. Peace. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 88th Android tutorial for the new Boston. What we're going to do in this tutorial is kind of format our milliseconds into minutes, seconds, and milliseconds for a stopwatch application. Now, this is kind of a rudimentary concept for Java programmers, and you wouldn't expect to learn this at the 88th tutorial, but I know some of you guys probably don't know how, especially if you've just been following this series as a beginner programmer. So we're just going to quickly format, or I'm going to show you guys how to format this long into, again, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds. So first what we're going to do is we're going to set up some int variables within our within our stop button. So we're going to say int milliseconds, or mils, like that, and we're going to again set this equal to our result. Nothing new there. Again, we have our stop and our start time, and it's giving us an error right now because it's like, hey, we're trying to set up an integer and you're trying to set it equal to a long. So what we're going to do is just cast in an int right here. So it's going to be like, yeah, we're working with a long, but hey, don't tell anybody, and we'll make this deal work. Just say it's an int and no one's going to get in trouble. So basically what you've been seeing in the past is we've used this a few times. Basically it's just casting it so we can make it work. And then we're also going to set up an int for seconds. And what we're going to do here is we're going to say our milliseconds or our result, even though it's pretty much the same thing. Again, we have to cast it as an int, sorry. And then we're going to say our result divided by 60. Wait, no, divide by 1,000, I'm sorry. Because milliseconds into seconds, we're going to divide it by 1,000. General basic math right there. And then we're also going to set up an int for minutes. And we're going to set this equal to, again, int. And then we're going to say our seconds. Actually, we don't have to use the int for this one. We're just going to say our seconds divided by 60. Makes sense, right? Oops, our second divided by 60. Let's make it seconds. There we go. Alright, so now basically we have everything set up for the most part. And now what we want to do is we want to set our show result as those three variables. So what we're going to do is basically delete what we have so far, and we're going to say string dot format. And as you can see, it takes a string as its first parameter and basically objects as its second parameter, and etc. So we're going to click that, and for what we're going to say is basically we want to have our, our minutes, our seconds, and then milliseconds all separated by a colon. So it's going to be something like this, right? But now we need to set up, basically that's not going to print anything with our variables in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to say our parenthesis sign, or I'm sorry, percentage sign D. And that's basically going to give us kind of a reference, which I'll explain in a second. And again, parentheses D within here, we're going to say O2 and parentheses, oops, I'm sorry, parentheses O2 D, and then again for the third one we're going to say parentheses O2 D. So basically what this parentheses does and this D does, it kind of just references over here. It's like, hey, this is the first D, give me an argument to work with. And it's like, hey, this is another D, give me the second argument and the third argument. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up our arguments over here. So we're going to say milliseconds, seconds, and oops, no, not like that, I'm sorry. Minutes is our first D, seconds, and milliseconds. So that's referring to these int variables right here. So again, it's going to hit this first D, it's going to look for the first argument, the second D is going to look for the second argument, and the third D is going to look for this third argument. But now we still are having a problem, and I'm going to show you that problem real quickly, hopefully, when we run our application. So we're going to hit start, let it run for a little bit, and then basically when we hit stop, our milliseconds is still showing all of our milliseconds, and it's still showing the 5 here. Stop again, we have the 14 here and the 14 here, etc. So we want to get rid of that problem. Alright, so basically what we want to do is we want to kind of just use the remainder for each of these, at least for the seconds and milliseconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to say milliseconds is equal to milliseconds, and then we're going to use our parentheses sign again and say divide by 100. So basically what that is going to do is it's going to take our milliseconds, it's going to divide it by 100, and whatever's left over, it's going to take that and set it equal to. So this, I don't know if that makes sense, but we're also going to do that for our seconds as well. So we're going to say seconds equals seconds divided by, and take the remainder of 60. Let's say we have 181 seconds. What this is going to do is it's going to say 181 seconds divided by 60. Hey, that goes into it 3 times, and with a remainder of 1. So it's basically going to give us the remainder. So it's going to say 1. So basically that's what we're working with. And now when we run our application, everything should work out perfectly. So let's just start, stop. And as you can see, it's kind of rounding everything off, and we aren't getting that overlap there that we were getting previously. So hopefully that kind of made some sense, guys. You learned about the module, or the remainder, and also these D things. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 89th Android tutorial for the new Boston. And in this tutorial we're going to build a simple browser. Get that going. What I've done is I've created again a class called Simple Browser and an XML file called Simple Browser. And I kind of set up just a basic layout, an edit text here with a go button, and then we got a go back, a go forward button, a refresh button, and a clear history button. So those are kind of the basic concepts we're going to go through here in the next tutorial or two. So the first thing we need to do is have a web view, and the web view allows us to kind of surf the internet. It kind of gives us a view according to whether we have an XML file we want to load, or I'm sorry, HTML file we want to load up, or if we just want to use kind of a URL. So we need to set that up. So again, you guys can set up your layout however you want for the most part. But our back button I just called B back, forward button B forward, B refresh, and B history. And then for edit text I have ET URL, and for the button I have the reference B go. That's for the go button. And then below that we're gonna just set up our edit text, or I'm sorry, our text web view. So it's pretty simple. Just say web view. And then we just need to set that up for Android. Layout width is going to be equal to fill parent, and Android layout height, again fill parent because we're taking up everything else that's available here. And then we're also, what's going on there? We're also going to give it an ID. So we're going to say, oops, at plus ID / web view browser, or something like that. And we're pretty much good to go here with the tutorial. So as you can see, here's our web view. Actually, that's going to load up our website and such like that. So now let's go into, the first thing we need to do is we need to go into the manifest and give us the permission to use the internet. So we're going to go into the manifest, go to permissions, add a permission, uses permissions, and then over here we're going to search for one called internet right here. So that'll allow us to kind of use the internet. Pretty obvious there, and we're just going to save it. And then we have our wake lock, internet, and set wallpaper so far are our permissions for this activity. Now what we need to do is we need to go into the Java code, and we're going to set up that reference as always. So we're going to just say web view our browser, our browse, something like that. And again, we're just going to say find web view here, find view by ID, and then we're just going to say r.id.our browser. Wasn't it our browser? oh yeah, it was a WebView, our browser, WebView browser there. And now what we can do is, let's say we just want to have our initial WebView to load up, like for example my site. We could say our browser or our brow dot load. We can either load data, which would be like written in HTML, or we can say load URL. So we can just go load URL, and then within quotations we're going to say http://www.mybringback.com, and in quotations. And that should load up just like my website when we run our application. So let's just check it out. So basically all we've created is a web view, and we've learned about this method called load URL. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial. We kind of set up everything, and again, you guys need permission for the internet, so I forgot to add it to the menu class here. Alright. So in the next tutorial we'll learn a little bit, a few more methods we can use for this web view type object. But let's just make sure we check out our simple browser. We click on it. As of now nothing is there, and then we're hopefully going to get this to load. Yeah, it's loading my website right here. And obviously it's you can still pan around, get everything going there, and it's fully functional. So I will catch you guys in the next tutorial. Have a good one. Peace. What's up, guys? Welcome to your 90th Android tutorial for the new Boston. And what I'm doing right now, I'm just finishing setting up some of those variables. So we're going to do that quickly. The two variables we want to be able to use for a whole class is a web view and also the URL. So basically our web view, what do we label that as? Our browser. So make sure those are variables we can use throughout our whole class. And then again, I set up the edit text. This is going to be basically the URL. If you type that in, we're going to allow that to use that URL. And then also I set up all of our buttons with the references, and I set all the on-click listeners, and I implemented again the on-click listener up here and set up just the standard switching case that we're familiar with. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into some of the methods that we can use with this web view. So far the only method we have is loading a URL from default. But we're also going to allow all these buttons to actually do something. That's what we're basically going to establish in this tutorial. Pretty simple stuff for the most part. Nothing too complicated. It's going to be pretty, like I said, pretty simple here. So let's get into it. We're going to just kind of do some of the methods with this go button. So basically the first thing that we're going to do is we have our edit text, right? So they can type in a URL, and then once we hit the go button, it's just going to create basically just the website we want within our web view. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our edit text, which we called URL, at least I called URL. We're going to set this equal to our URL dot, or actually let's start a new string. We're going to say string, and we're going to say the website, something like that. This is going to be equal to our URL, which is our edit text. We're going to say again get text, and then we're going to say toString. So that's kind of a review, but basically we're creating a string that's going to be whatever is in our edit text. Then we're going to say basically again our web view, so we're going to say our brow, which is our web view, and we're going to say dot load URL, and then we're just going to load that string that we set up, so the website. So far nothing new for the most part, but now we're just allowing people to type in their own basically web URL that they want to go to, and then we're gonna go to that URL. So nothing new there, nothing complicated. Basically once we use our browser or web view a few times, we store some of that data. So we can use a back button to go to the previous website, a forward button to go to the next website. And what we can use is a method called, well, we're going to use this on our web view. So we're going to say our brow, and then we can say, like for example, since this is the back button, we can say go back. Pretty simple method, pretty easy to remember because we want to go back. And let's say, for example, right when our application starts, it's going to load my website, mybringback.com. But let's say there's no previous history, so there's nothing to go back to. So we're going to set up a simple if statement. And what we're going to say is we're going to say web or our brow again, which is our web view. And then we're going to say a method. This is Boolean, so it's going to be true or false. So we can say can go back. So that's going to be like, hey, can we go back? And if we can, then we're going to do this line of code, which will go back. And that's going to be kind of the same layout for go forward as well. So we're just going to copy and paste that. Instead of saying can go back, we're going to say dot can go forward. So again, that's Boolean, checking if it's true or false, and if it's true, we're going to make it our web view go forward. And can you guess the method? It's called go forward. Pretty simple again, but again, these are just some of the methods that we can use for web view. Now the refresh, we're going to again say something like our brow, again referring to our web view, and we're just going to simply just go dot reload. So it's not actually refresh, but it's reload. Still pretty easy method to remember, and that's just going to reload the website. And then, for example, if we want to clear history, so we go through 10 websites and we want to clear the history, so our go back button won't work anymore. To do that, we're going to say our brow and then dot clear history. So that one's pretty easy as well. And those are the simple methods that I want to teach you guys in this lesson. We can run it or save it. Let's see, I'm getting an error. Just got to finish off that statement there. And we can run this and it'll work. But I want to show you one of the problems that we're going to solve in the next tutorial. Alright, so we're going to go down to our simple browser application, and it's going to load up again my bring back. And the only thing, well, this isn't the problem that we're going to solve, but for example, if you just said www dot, it's not going to work. You have to do the http //www dot the new Boston or something like that .com, and then we just hit our go button and it's going to load up that website, as you can see here. And so that's pretty neat. And then if we hit the go back button, it's going to go back to my bring back, go forward, go back, and then clear history. Then we try and go forward again. It's not going to allow us because it cleared all the history. Now here's the problem that we're going to solve in the next tutorial. Let's say I want to click on one of the links, like blog, from my website. It opens up a new intent, and it uses the browser intent that's built in with Android. So we want to get rid of that for the most part. I mean, we don't necessarily want to, but we're going to because we want to have our browser kind of do everything. So it reloads in this web view. So I'll catch you guys in that tutorial, and have a good one.